Steve Powers is the Republican who's facing incumbent Mayor Stephen Wakila in the mayoral race, and he joins us now. Mr. Powers, thank you for making the trip down to Florence to talk to me today.
Thank you, Tim. It's good to be here.
I want to talk to you first off about why you're getting into the race. What is it about the current leadership that you think you could change or do something better?
Well, first of all, one of the reasons I'm running is I love Florence. It's been good to my family. My son was raised there. We've been there about 25 years. I own a small business downtown. We're right down in the mix of it, where things are happening. Things are, during this economic times, things are tough. And we're right down there helping them out and helping the community. And I think we can make a big difference in Florence by having more of a business approach toward the city. The current mayor likes to, his answer to problems is raise taxes, and mine's not. So we're going to keep a lid on those taxes.
He has said that, during his tenure, the property taxes have been lowered, and here and there, I suppose he's taxes have been raised as far as penny sales tax. Which taxes, what is too exorbitant, do you think, right now in Florence County? What would you like to see maybe honed down? Is there room to take anything down and at the sake of revenue?
Right. I think what we've done in Florence is we've done a good job in keeping property taxes low. Now, that's not to say that my opponent hasn't wanted to raise taxes. There's 6 occasions that he has either introduced himself or has said he would support increasing of millage or property tax on the citizens of Florence. There was only one that was voted through to build the fire station in South Florence, and that was a 1.8 mil, which is a very nominal amount. But if we'd have raised all of them on the occasions that he wanted to support or do that, our taxes could have almost doubled.
How do you bring in revenue without raising taxes and continue projects that many people say are really needed in the city of Florence?
The first way you do that is through economic development and annexation. Currently, if you drive down Second Loop Road, for example, you're in the city, then you're out of the city, then you're back in the city, and just keeps happening all the way down through the road. So what we want to do, or what I want to do, is fill in those gaps. I want to offer incentive programs to the property owners or homeowners that would annex in. I want to, and the more of those we get in the city, the less property taxes we have to raise, because we're bringing in more revenue. We're currently providing services to people on each side of them. We're just driving past them to go to the next location. So, and my opponent's office isn't in the city, so we'd like to get him annexed in too.
Another thing that your opponent told me, and he appears in the segment before the one that we're in right now, another thing he told me is he prides himself on being able to build a consensus and work in a bipartisan manner with city council and with even the state legislature. He's a Democrat and said he worked with Hugh Leatherman to get the Oakland Park project done. How do you believe in working in a bipartisan way and working with council?
Absolutely. I think it's anybody that can't do that can't complete any agenda. You have to take all of council's and their desires in mind when you're setting these projects up. But the answer that I think the conservative or Republican side has shown him in the last 4 years is that we're not going to tolerate just raising of taxes to fund every project. And that's been the answer. There are other answers. There's other partners in the town that we can bring into play that will help with these projects. So bipartisanship is, of course, what has to be done.
Talking about infrastructure needs within Florence, a lot of people have talked about redoing downtown and trying to spruce up downtown to make it a more attractive place for businesses to locate, and the I-95 corridor, bringing more businesses in to benefit from I-95.
Absolutely.
What projects do you think need to get done, and name a specific, and also how it would be funded?
Well, there's 2 that come to mind right at first, and that's what we found is that there are funds available for on I-20 and I-95 to fix the exits. which we could do to enhance those exits to make it more appealable for people to come off the interstates to Florence. We have a vast arts and cultural district in our downtown, so we want to get those people off the interstate and into our downtown. Downtown revitalization is priority, but at the same time, what has to happen is neighborhood redevelopment. And we put money in the budget this year to start funding some of those projects. So, but there are other ways to fund it. You can use some of the water revenue we have, because all of those are water customers, which we've done in our downtown. But what we don't need to do is forget the little guys in downtown. We need to have incentives for them too, and I would enhance those.
Your opponent handily beat his challenger in the primary, who was a fellow city council member. You're going up against Mayor Wakila now as he seeks his second term. How are you going to get votes swung your way?
You know, it's the bipartisanship and effort around Florence. I mean, I meet every day with people that walk in my shop, because when they walk in my printing company's door, I'm the first person they see. They don't have to go behind a locked door to find me, and we talk about issues that affect them, and we talk about things that are going on in their life. Had a man walk in today selling peanuts, and he does drywall work, but he said he has to do what he has to do to feed his family. And with a tear in his eye, I bought some peanuts, gave them to the employees so they could, he could feed his family. It's just, there's all kind of things going on out there. The fact that I ran as a Democrat in '08 and I'm running as a Republican now shows that I have the ability to go to both parties, and I always have.
And I was going to ask you about that. Where is your allegiance when it comes down to party lines? You're running as a Republican now, so I assume it would be Republican. But why the switch, and why the change of heart?
Well, in local politics, I don't know that it comes into play that much as it does in Washington, and probably in my mind, that might be the problem with Washington. But when I ran in 2008, I felt more unified with the Democratic Party and Democratic people. Since I've been in office, more conservative. So I've seen what Mr. Wakila has done or tried to do with raising taxes, and the Democratic belief on, the answer is just higher taxes. And my allegiance has switched over to a more conservative view of government. And it fit right in.
Right.
There hadn't been any problems with it.
I want to take a break, and when we come back, I have a final question for you, but I also want to talk a little bit about crime in the city.
Good.
We'll be right back with Republican candidate for mayor of Florence, Steve Powers. Be right back. Welcome back to Carolina This Week. Today we are focusing on the candidates for mayor of Florence. We saw incumbent mayor Democrat Stephen Wakila in the first part. Now we have Steve Powers, the Republican, running for the office. I want to talk about crime in Florence because there is at least a perception among a lot of people that crime is getting a little out of hand in Florence. How do you plan from the mayor's seat to tackle the problem?
Well, first of all, we have an excellent chief of police in Anson Shells, and I think crime in Florence is down. The perception is there that, for example, that our downtown isn't safe. Well, it is safe. There's statistically more crime at Magnolia Mall than there is in downtown, but it's into people's mind. So what we have to do is fix that perception. We have police units on the ground that are walking the beats in our downtowns. They're stopping in businesses, introducing themselves, talking to customers on the street, and that's helped a lot. We put up new camera systems that I supported for Chief Shells to have that are monitored from the police department. It helps the deployment process and gets them out there quicker. It's the main thing we need to do is communicate with the people and let them know that it is safe, and we welcome them into the downtown and all over Florence. We have the way the chief reports is different from some other municipalities. We report every call, and a lot of them don't report unless there's a report written up, so we would have more instances than they would.
Okay.
So.
If you're elected mayor, and we look back on this 4 years ago, what would you want people to look back and say that was that was something the Powers administration brought us? What's something that you hope would be your crowning achievement in a term of mayor?
Economic development for this city, where we don't have to look at raising taxes every time we want to build a project. I told the city manager, Drew Griffin, that I would do everything in my power to get him funding so he can start paving roads in the city of Florence. Currently, like the Oakland Avenue project, we have to go around and ask somebody to please consider giving us back some money that we can pave a road with. This way, if we have our own revenue, we can put that revenue with theirs, with DOT and with the county, and pave roads quicker. The plan I have would give the city somewhere around $4 to $5 million a year that Drew could use and get a list of roads and start paving. And I think it would be, and also besides just paving, we do sidewalks, we do pedestrian walkways. You know, at I-20 we have 3 of the #1 restaurants in their entire chains, but you can't walk between them. There's no sidewalks, so I want to fix all that where we can get more pedestrian friendly as well.
And this is really my last question for you. It's my last question of just about every candidate. If you want to look in the camera right there and just tell people why you deserve their vote.
If you would do vote for me, I'd tell you that when my wife Susan and I came to Florence and bought the printing company in 2001, I started getting involved in a lot of the nonprofits around town and ended up serving on 10 nonprofit boards. I saw the great work that these nonprofits were doing, the United Way, the Red Cross, YMCA, et cetera. But I also saw the needs of the people they were servicing. And we as a community need to be held accountable and help our elderly, our indigent, and people that are a little bit less off as we are. And that's what I want to do as mayor of Florence. I want to do something where we keep our young people from graduating our great high schools, going off to college and moving away. So I want them to come back to Florence. I want them to tell their family that once I finish school, I'm coming home to open my business. So I want to try to set up a program to where we get with the major companies around Florence, try to establish a fund that maybe we can help them with some of their tuition debts that they have. If they stay in Florence, they want to stay here and work, open their companies, maybe we can come up with some funds to help them come out of that debt. Talked to one the other day that had $275,000 in tuition debt. So I want to help those people.
All right. Mr. Powers, thank you for coming in and talking with me about your candidacy.
Thank you.
And good luck to you come November.
Thank you, Tim.
All right. Stay with us. We will be right back.